going to introduce to you a concept. Many of you have heard this concept, have seen this concept. Yes? I'm going to introduce to you this concept. And some of us are doing it right now and probably don't even know it. We probably don't even understand or we remember some of the things that we used to do. Some of the things that we're holding on to. How many of us have been hurt in the past? Yeah? Somewhere somebody did you wrong, hurt your feelings, made you feel a way that you didn't appreciate. And you're holding on to that. And then holding on to that past, holding on to that trauma and drama, you create these things that stick with you. They stick to your ribs, yeah? And I'm going to tell you a story. I like stories. I think stories are important when it comes to speaking. I'm going to tell you a story. So I want you to imagine. Many of you have gone to elementary school before, yeah? Yeah. Many of you have gone to elementary school before. Many of you, I'm sure, in this day and age, maybe not 100 years ago, but today's children, you've all been to the 5th grade. And if you can remember the 5th grade, it's really a time where you start to blossom into who you think you should be. Yeah? 5th grade is that time where you're no longer a kid. You can, if you live within walking distance like I did from my school, you can walk to school without parental guidance. You can cross the street on your own. You can probably in the 5th grade, in some neighborhoods and in some circumstances, you can make your own breakfast without tearing up the kitchen. Yes? Yes. And it's really odd that in the 5th grade, many people find themselves. They discover they're either awkward or they're cool, you know? So in the 5th grade, I want you to imagine being in the 5th grade and what it was like for you in the 5th grade. Yet, you were discovering yourself, and yes, you were faced with some challenges about being awkward or being super cool, or whether your friends are gonna still like you. I don't know if you had boobs yet, if you grew 15 inches over the summer. Things change come 5th grade. But some of us, for me, the 5th grade was different. In the 5th grade, at the end of the year, we had this thing where, growing up in Paterson, New Jersey, we had this thing at the end of the year, we would clear out our lockers and we would throw all the papers and stuff all over the school, and it was like this celebration, like, yeah, we did it, we won, we conquered another year, right? And I remember the day just as vividly as I do if I'm standing in front of you today. I remember throwing those papers in the air at the end of the day of my 5th grade year, and I was excited about summer vacation. Exactly. We love summer vacation in the 5th grade. We don't love summer vacation as parents, but we love summer vacation as children. And as I threw my papers in the air, I was ready to celebrate going swimming and bike rides and just being out with my friends past a certain time. Even when the lights went out. How many of you had to be in the house when the lights went out? But in the summertime, you got to stay out later because the nights were longer, yes? The days were longer. And I just remember throwing those papers in the air and just being so excited about summer, like, yeah, summer's coming. And we walked home from school, me and my friends planning when we're gonna go to the swimming pool and when we're gonna go to the movies and when we're gonna hang out and things that we were gonna do all summer long, and if we were gonna go to grandma's house in South Carolina, because up north, it was a big deal for you to go down south for the summer to visit your grandparents or to visit your aunts and uncles. And it was a tradition in my family. Every year we would go down south of the border. Remember those south of the border signs? 20 miles till Pedro, you know what I mean? But those were the highlights. Those were the highlights. So we're walking home and we're getting all excited, and I could just remember strutting up to my apartment complex, right? And as I was coming into the apartment complex, into the parking lot, I ran into somebody who was quite familiar to me. He was my mother's boyfriend at the time. Young, knucklehead now, but I didn't think of anything then. I just knew he was too young for my mother. He was young. He looked like he was 18. Too young for my mother. You know what I mean? And I remember I didn't like it. There was always something about him that was just funky. And as a kid, you kind of get the vibe, yeah? You always knew when something wasn't right with the person. It was just something that's built into a child's DNA. And I remember passing him by with a snicker. With the I can't stand him. And I walked by him with that attitude of superiority, of confidence. I can't wait till my mother gets rid of you. Ugh. Right? And as I made my way up the stairs to celebrate with my mother and say, hey, this is my end of the school year grades. I passed everything. When can I go swimming? What are we doing this summer? Just to kind of debrief and unload on my mother, because that's what you do as children, right? But as I entered into our apartment, I had this very distinct feeling come over me. Have you ever stepped into a room and someone that you have a disdain for enters the room as well, or somebody that you just don't get along with enters the room, and it just takes the energy out the room? That's how I felt walking into my apartment. And I see my mother busy. She's just busy. She's just doing things. She's just busy. She's touching stuff, and she's moving things, and she's walking around, and she's busy, and she's walking, and she's going here, and she's touching stuff, and she's doing things, and she's looking, and she's talking to herself. And she looks up at me in the midst of all of her doing. She talks to me, she says, I'm leaving. And she goes back to doing what she's doing and everything. But for me, in that moment, as I stood at that door, she said it very nonchalantly, I'm leaving. But it hit me in a different place. Because the inside of me knew that this was a different type of leaving. Many and plenty of times my mother has said, I'm leaving. But there was something about the I'm leaving that always signified there's a coming back. You always felt there was a coming back. I'm leaving. But there was always that showing. But in this particular I'm leaving, the way it was delivered, I'm leaving. I knew there was, I'm not coming back.